I'd be lying if I said that breaking up with Harmony felt liberating in any sense of the word. It didn't. It felt like putting a 2-week-old puppy down with a shotgun behind a woodshed while looking it straight in its adorable little puppy eyes as it asked you, "Why are you doing this to me, Mark?" But breaking up was the best thing to do for both of us. There's no easy way to say this, but Harmony needed therapy, not a boyfriend. Harmony had attachment issues. Dear God, did she have attachment issues? Her mother had died of an overdose when she was a kid, and her dad had been a deadbeat who'd taken off the first chance he'd gotten, so she'd been punted from foster home to foster home like an unwanted hot potato. As a result, when she latched on to someone, she latched on. She used to text me constantly, and if I didn't reply every 10 minutes, she'd confront me about it. Sometimes those little confrontations would escalate into full-out arguments. And after a while, sometimes became often enough that I stopped bothering with arguing back. See, you can support someone as much as humanly possible, but there's only so much one person can do to prop up another's mental health. No matter how badly I wanted to help her, there was never going to be any way for me to help her work through her literal mountain of personal issues, and my continued failure to do so just poisoned our already toxic relationship even further. And not to sound too salty about everything, but I was pretty sure that on some level, she didn't want to work through those issues. What she wanted was someone to just deal with it for her. And so every few nights, she'd sob and ramble about how everyone in her life had abandoned her, how no one ever truly cared about her, how all she wanted was to be loved. But she never really considered what she could be doing to fix her own problems. She never seemed to stop and think about what she could be doing differently. It was everyone else's fault, never hers. And if only someone would come along and be different. If only someone would come along and fix it all for her, everything would be fine. Some nights, I was that guy. Some nights, I was just another asshole who was inevitably going to abandon her too. Still, I tried to prove her wrong. God, did I ever try. But she'd already decided that I was going to leave her right after we started dating, and while it took 3 years, that self-fulfilling prophecy ultimately came true. I couldn't deal with her anymore. The constant emotional meltdowns, the constant need for validation, and constant shifts in her mood. One minute she could be fine and cuddly and everything would be great. Then I'd say the wrong thing, mention a TV show or a comic she didn't like, spend too much time with a friend who wasn't her, and then she'd go off on me. I couldn't keep doing it. I couldn't deal with getting yelled at for not spending enough time with her because I was the only one in the house with a regular job, since she refused to go out and get one herself. I couldn't deal with her anymore. So I ended it. At first she cried, bawling her eyes out. Then she got angry, screaming at me, throwing things at me, calling me every single derogatory name in the book. And then, after I'd left to sleep on a friend's couch, came the apologies. She begged for another chance. She begged for me to come back. She sent me nudes, trying to lure me back with the promise of sex. Then the cycle started again, until the length between the messages she sent slowly got longer and longer and longer as she began to accept the reality that we were finally over. Like I said, I hated doing it to her. It felt like drowning my best friend, watching her struggle and fight to save a relationship that I knew had to end. I realized that to an outsider, she probably does sound legitimately insane. Most people would probably wonder why I even dealt with her for so long. But our relationship wasn't all bad. We had some good times too. The thing is, with relationships like this, it's hard to just accept all of the problems. You make excuses, you downplay them, you focus on the good, and every time you get yelled at for being the bad guy, you just take it because even if you know it's all bullshit on some level, you don't want to invalidate the other person's feelings because that's what all those bad people who left them did, and you don't want to be one of them. You're supposed to be different. You need to be different. You know they've got problems, but you don't want to admit it. You don't want to abandon them like everyone else. You want to be the one who stays with them until the end. In every sense, it's a hell of your own creation. In between the arguments and the emotional instability, Harmony could be sweet. She could be sincere. She could be full of passion. She could be a good listener when I needed to vent. She was genuinely funny, and she loved me. She loved me so much that I knew she felt it in every bone in her body. She loved me, and I loved her back. I wanted to help her. I wanted to help fix her messed up life. I wanted to be her other half. I really, truly did. I just couldn't. And accepting that was the best thing I could have done for either of us. Maybe it was a mistake, but I did stay in touch with Harmony after the breakup. More accurately, she stayed in touch with me, and when she finally accepted that she and I were through, then I started responding to her. Mostly, we'd talk about old TV shows we both used to enjoy together, and sometimes she'd give me updates on how she was finally getting her shit together. I suspect she mostly did that to try and gauge how interested I'd be in getting back together, and I'd be lying if I said that I hadn't entertained the thought. I wasn't planning on actually doing it. Not anytime soon, at least. But I had considered it. Maybe if she was getting the help she needed, the therapy, the medication, the socialization, things would be different. Maybe. Either way, it was still nice to see her finally starting to take care of herself. Not only had she started therapy, but she'd also taken up hiking to help her get out of the house. Thanks to the hiking, she'd put on a few pounds of muscle since the breakup. She'd always been scrawny, thanks in no small part to a history of eating disorders. But now she looked good. If you'd shown me the last selfie she sent to me back when we'd still been dating, I would have thought it was someone else entirely. Her skin was less pale than it had been. The dark circles under her eyes had started to fade, and her long, messy dark hair looked like it had finally encountered a hairbrush. In the picture, she was standing at the edge of a cliffside, overlooking a dense forest. She had a wide, beaming smile that I'd never seen on her face before, and the message that accompanied the text read, 5 kilometers, new personal best. The Harmony I'd known would never have taken a 5-kilometer hike. Hell, the Harmony I'd known barely changed out of the tank tops and shorts she slept in, but here she was dressed to be out in public. She'd been working full-time as a graphic designer. She was doing fantastic. Badass, I texted back. Thanks. The hike back was actually a little harder. Wandered off the trail and got a little lost for a bit there. Oh shit, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm back in my car. Well, at least she was safe. Gotta say it did spook me a little, though. At one point, I actually think I heard something moving through the trees. Oh shit. You see what it was? I don't think so. Probably just squirrel or a deer. Didn't get a good look at it. It probably heard me and ran off. At least she seemed upbeat about it, and it really didn't seem like she'd ever been in any real danger. Busy tonight? Want to grab a bite? Her next text didn't really surprise me. She asked to see me every now and then. I usually turned her down. I wasn't entirely ready to go back to seeing her in person again. I still needed my space. Sorry, I've got work. Boo. Another night then? Yeah, I'll let you know. We'd had that little conversation almost 1,000 times before. It wasn't entirely a lie. I did still have some work I needed to finish up that night, but I knew I wasn't really going to be that late. Yeah, it's been so long, I really want to see you again. 3. That message, admittedly, almost made me rethink choosing not to see her again. I kept thinking about the good times we'd had together, the best parts of our relationship. And thinking back on those made it easy to forget just how dysfunctional we'd been. Still, my bigger head prevailed, and I gave her a polite but dismissive reply before moving on with my day. She'd messaged me again the next day, late in the morning, around 10:30. It was a little odd. Up until yesterday, I hadn't been hearing from her as much, although I wasn't that put off by hearing from her again. That said, the message she'd sent was concerning. Hey, you sleep okay last night? She usually didn't send messages like that. It seemed oddly personal. At first, I kind of wondered if maybe she was just trying to endear herself to me or something, but that seemed unlike her. She'd never even sent me messages like that when we'd been dating. Still, I responded. Yeah, I slept okay. You? Not well. Feeling kinda sick, actually. Now I got it. Seemed like she wanted to vent. Well, I didn't really have anything better to do, so I figured why not let her talk. Something you ate? I don't know. It started last night. Head is a bit dizzy, too. You go to a clinic? Gonna try some Tylenol first, see if that helps. Kinda worried, though. Maybe something bit me while I was out yesterday. Like a bug? I took a bad fall on the way back. Didn't think it was that bad, I don't know now. Go to a walk-in. She took a few moments to reply after I sent that, and I could almost see her staring down at her phone, mulling it over. You're right. I should suck it up and go. I let her message sit for a few minutes while my attention shifted back to my work, before she texted me again. Can you go with me? I stared down at my phone before sighing. I wasn't dumb enough not to see right through what she was trying to pull here. Can't. I'm working. I'm sorry. She just sent me a frowny face in response. Sorry, I said again, and our conversation mostly petered out after that until later in the day. She started texting me again around 2. This time, the message read, "Went to the clinic. Doctor says I'm okay." That's good to hear, I replied. Maybe you just need rest? Maybe. Go rest, and drink water. I will. I'm meeting someone tonight, though. This wasn't the first time she'd met someone since we'd broken up, although those meetups were few and far between. The fact that she had to tell me about each one told me that she was probably just hoping I'd get jealous. But I genuinely hoped that one of the guys she was going out with would be the one to finally steal her away from me. I wasn't jealous at all. Well, okay, maybe a little. But it was a small, shameful little pang of envy that I quashed the moment it rose up in my chest. She needed someone who wasn't me. I knew that, and I think she knew it too, on some level. Okay, don't stay out too late, I texted back, and left it at that. She replied to me, saying she wouldn't, but I didn't say anything more to her. It was better for both of us if I didn't take her bait. It was time for her to meet someone else. Maybe that would be good for her. Hell, maybe this would really work out for her. Maybe they'd be a better fit than we ever were. Hopefully. Even if it wasn't with me, I still wanted her to be happy. When I woke up the next morning, I had 19 missed calls, 8 voicemails, and about 54 unanswered texts, all from Harmony. Clingy as she used to be, this was a massive red flag. Something was wrong, and that knowledge forced aside the grogginess I still felt after waking up. I sat up in bed and skimmed through the most recent ones. I don't remember last night. I don't see anyone in the house. I think I cut myself. There's blood? I wasn't drinking. I wasn't drinking anything, I just don't remember. I feel sick. Should I go back to the clinic? Mark, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. Immediately, that pit of worry in my gut sank even deeper. I didn't even bother checking the voicemails and just called her outright. The phone rang a few times before she finally answered. Mark? Her voice was low, raspy almost. She sounded a little out of it. Harmony, what the hell is going on? I just woke up and I saw your texts. What happened last night? Don't remember, she said. Well, what do you remember? What happened with the guy you were seeing? We met at a restaurant. Mark, can you just come over? I don't feel good. Keep throwing up. I said yes without even thinking. I'll be right over. Just try to drink some water. Stay awake, okay? I'll be right there. I threw on yesterday's jeans and immediately drove over. Harmony's apartment was a little cleaner than the old apartment we'd shared together had been, although given the state of the place, that really wasn't saying much. The place almost looked torn apart, as if there'd been some sort of brawl in there. On the walls, I noticed scuffs and bloody handprints, supporting the idea that there'd been some kind of struggle. But looking at Harmony sitting in the middle of it all, she didn't look as if she'd been part of any kind of struggle. There wasn't a mark on her. She sat on her couch, dressed in a loose-fitting tank top and her favorite comfortable shorts, cupping a mug of hot chocolate. There were dark circles under her eyes that looked a little worse than the ones she'd had when we were together. Her skin seemed paler than it had in her recent pictures, and her hair was a mess, but otherwise she still looked relatively healthy. She looked over at me when I came in, the exhaustion still clear on her face. "Mark." Her voice was hoarse and raspy. She stood up before pulling me into a tight hug. I don't know what happened. I don't remember last night. I could feel her starting to break down sobbing as I held her close. My eyes shifted toward the bloody handprint on the wall, quietly narrowing. The handprint was too large to be hers. It had to be someone else's, but whose? Harmony looked over at the blood, and I could sense the dread in her. "I don't know how that got there," she said softly. I don't know." "It's all right," I said, gently stroking her hair. "It's all right." I knew that was a lie. I didn't know what the hell had happened to her last night, but I already had my suspicions. Someone else had clearly been here, and there was only one person I could think of. Harmony's mystery date. All of the pieces fell so easily into place. A date she couldn't remember, signs of a struggle in her home, but no sign of the mystery man. It all made too much sense. Whoever she'd gone out with last night must have done something to her. They must have slipped something into her drink and... God. Judging by the blood, she must have still been able to fight back, but that didn't change what he'd done. Whoever he was. "I'm sorry. I don't remember. I don't know what." Her voice sounded raspier than usual. She barely sounded like herself. I couldn't imagine the pain she was in. I didn't know what more I could say to her, so I just held her. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's all right. You're all right. I've got you." Without even thinking about it, I made her an offer. "Let's get your things, okay? You can stay with me for a few days. I've got you." She looked up at me, as if she genuinely hadn't been expecting me to offer that to her. But what else could I have done? Left her all by herself? No, I couldn't have done that. Not after what I thought she'd been through. No, I can't. I couldn't. And I can't just leave you here by yourself, okay? Come on. We'll figure this out. We'll talk to the police and we'll find this guy, okay? She was silent for a moment, before giving me a slow nod. Okay. I helped her up off the couch and led her to her bedroom, helping her gather up what she'd need for a few days. Then I took her home. The next few hours were a blur. I did take her to file a report with the police. She showed them the profile of the man she'd met the night before. Apparently, his name had been Lucas. His profile picture depicted a man with rimless glasses, dark hair, and soft features. He kinda looked a little bit like me, but I chose not to think about that too much. The police took her statement and promised they'd keep us updated. Then we went home. My apartment only had one bedroom, so I washed the sheets and set up the bed so Harmony could sleep on it as I prepared to take the couch. "You don't have to, Mark. I'll take the couch, really," she'd protested. But I wasn't going to hear any of that. I insisted she take the bed, and she eventually just accepted that she was going to have to spend the night in a comfortable bed. We ordered takeout for dinner that night. She seemed to be in slightly higher spirits as we ate than she had been throughout the rest of the day, but her smile always faded quickly, and I could see a hollow look in her eyes as her mind wandered back to the things she did not remember. After we ate, we played a game together to try and keep her mind off of things, but it really didn't accomplish much. Her mind was elsewhere, and it wasn't even 9 in the evening before she excused herself to go to bed. I asked her if there was anything else I could do for her. She said there wasn't, so I let her sleep, and I didn't find myself staying up that much longer either. It wasn't the first time I'd dozed off on my couch. It wasn't the most comfortable place to sleep, but it was comfortable enough. I was a little disoriented when I woke up to pee at some point, but I got my bearings pretty quickly. I got up off the couch and headed to the bathroom. It was on my way back that I noticed my bedroom door was open, so I stopped for a moment to look inside to see how she was doing. The bed was empty. I stopped for a moment, thinking that maybe I just didn't see her for some reason, but the sheets were pulled back and the bed was completely empty. "Harmony?" I called out to her, but there was no response. A draft from the open window caused the curtains to flare out. I paused. My window wasn't usually open. Had Harmony opened it? Harmony? I stepped into the room and looked around. No sign of her. Glancing at the open window again, I felt a sudden spike of panic in my chest as I ran over toward it. She hadn't... No, she wouldn't have. The screen that had previously covered my window was gone. No. I looked out the window, dreading what I'd see at the bottom, but there was nothing. No sign that Harmony had jumped out. No sign of her anywhere. That was good, right? I left the room, looking around my apartment and half hoping she'd be rummaging through my kitchen or something. But I was alone. She was gone. When I tried to call her phone, I heard it ringing in my bedroom, so clearly she hadn't taken it with her. I figured that was probably a good sign. Maybe she'd gone out on a walk or something. That had to be it, although the fact that she hadn't taken her phone seemed odd to me. Without a whole lot of other options, I couldn't really do much more than sit and wait to see if she came back, so that's exactly what I did. I sat on the couch, waiting for some sign that she was back. I kept waiting for her to walk through my front door, which I couldn't help but notice was still locked. Last I checked, she didn't have a key, but maybe she'd somehow found one. That didn't make sense. None of this made sense. Still, in the end, she did come back. Just not through the front door. I never actually saw or heard her coming back, but about 2 hours after I'd noticed she was missing, I found her in my bed, fast asleep, and wrapped up in my blanket as if she'd never even been missing. I paused when I saw her, wondering if maybe I'd somehow missed her earlier, but no. The bed had been empty. I knew it had been empty. Had she climbed back in through the window? That didn't make any goddamn sense. I was living in a 6th-floor apartment. I almost considered waking her up, but as I got closer, I noticed the dark smears on her hands. At first, I thought they were just shadows, but shadows don't leave smears on the sheets. I should have asked her about it. I should have turned on the light and seen for myself. But I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I think I wanted to believe that it really was just shadows, even if I should have known better. Or maybe there was some deeper, other reason I didn't try to confront her right then and there. Maybe on some level, I knew what was wrong already. I didn't have any sort of name for it. I didn't know the finer details, but I knew it was something. And on some level, I knew what might happen to me if I roused her. Instead, I just left my bedroom, tried not to think about everything that had just happened, and sat down on the couch, pretending that I was planning on going back to sleep, as if sleep was something I was even capable of anymore. The hours ticked past, and after a while I heard her waking up. I pretended not to notice as she tore around my bedroom, muttering to herself and swearing under her breath, clearly panicked. I laid down and pretended to be asleep as she stripped my bed and hastily stuffed my sheets into the washing machine, as if it would clean off all of the blood. Then I heard her disappear into the bathroom. The shower roared to life, and she stayed in there for the better part of 45 minutes. When she finally came out to check on me, I pretended as if I was just waking up, put on a familiar fake smile, and asked if she wanted breakfast. She didn't, but she said yes just to be polite. As I cooked, she sat anxiously at my kitchen table, glancing down at her hands, which I imagined she'd scrubbed down to the bone during the 45-minute shower she'd taken before coming out to see if I was awake. "I'm sorry about the sheets," she said softly. I thought I had tampons in my purse, but It's fine. Nothing I haven't seen before," I assured her. I couldn't tell if she knew I was lying or not. "I know, it's just embarrassing. I feel really awful about it. I promise I'll clean the whole mess up." I just nodded. If I'd thought for 1 second that it was just period blood, I'd have offered to help. "Did the cramps wake you up at all last night?" I asked. "Uh-huh. Cramps. No. No, I slept the whole night through, she said, although she sounded unsure, almost as if she wanted to believe that, but didn't. Maybe she didn't know where she'd gone either. I thought about asking her outright, but it didn't feel right to do so. I'm fine, really, she promised, but neither of us believed that. When I got home from work that evening, she was in my kitchen, in the middle of cooking me a meal that was a hell of a lot nicer than anything I'd eaten in a long while. "Oh, you're home," she said, putting on a big smile the moment she saw me, as if nothing was wrong. "Sorry for the mess. I promise I'll clean it up." "It's fine," I said. "What is this, though?" "This? Well, you've been really good to me, letting me stay here and all that. I wanted to say thank you." "Oh, you didn't need to do anything for me. I just wanted to be helpful." "I know, but I wanted to." She was wearing a big, sweet smile that was hard to resist, although it wasn't enough to make me forget about the strange things I'd seen that morning. Nor did it make me forget about the crime scene that I'd seen just down the street. I'd noticed it on the way to work. I hadn't seen much, but I'd seen the paramedics moving a covered body into an ambulance, and the memory of it had left a pit in my stomach all day. I wanted to pretend otherwise, but somehow I knew it had something to do with Harmony. Just what? I couldn't be sure. But there was a connection there. At her insistence, I sat down at the kitchen table. Usually it was just a magnet for clutter, but Harmony had taken the time to clear it off. Odd. She'd never been the sort to clean anything back when we'd been together. Then again, she'd barely been able to cook craft dinner back then. But judging from what I saw in the kitchen, she was making steak. "Here we go. Hope you're hungry," she hummed as she brought out 2 plates, piled high with steak, boiled frozen vegetables, and oven-roasted potatoes. It looks good," I said. "Where'd you get the steak?" "I picked it up," she said. "I wanted to do something special for you." She smiled at me, but there was something wrong with that smile. There was something wrong with her. The Harmony I knew had been a mess, and even if she'd been getting her life back together, I'd never have imagined her as being this put together. And in a way, she wasn't. She was wearing a nicer dress than usual, but her hair looked messier and more unkempt than it ever had before. Her smile seemed a little too wide, and the way she moved, she seemed out of it. Her eyes seemed glassy and far away. I would have asked if she was high, but Harmony was never the type to use drugs. No, this felt like it was someone else entirely, someone other than Harmony. "Come on, eat up," she said. "I made it just for you." I looked down at the steak before cutting into it. The meat was practically raw, not blue rare, raw. "It looks good, right?" she asked. I looked up to see that she'd already devoured half of hers. "Oh, wow, you were hungry," I said softly. "Yeah, my appetite's been weird ever since that hike the other day. It's funny, there's parts of it I don't remember. I think I ran into someone, but..." She shook her head and changed the subject. "Hey, aren't you gonna eat?" I looked down at the steak again before taking a bite of it. There was no seasoning on it, but I forced myself to keep eating. "The night you met that guy, Lucas, were you hungry that night too?" I asked, swallowing a gory hunk of raw beef. "Yeah, really hungry," she said. "And last night too, but I didn't want to bother you with it." "Right," I replied absent-mindedly. "So, going back, you said you met someone in the woods, right? Do you remember anything about them?" "I just told you I didn't," she said. "Nothing at all?" She seemed to think for a moment. I think I remember that I was bothering him and his friends. I don't remember their names, though." She shook her head. Whatever it was, she didn't want to get into it. "It doesn't matter. Are you done eating yet?" She looked at me, and there was a hunger in her eyes that was both familiar and disturbingly alien. No, not. I'm not hungry," I stammered. "Well, we can reheat it," she said, her voice lower and more sultry than before. "You know, I really do want to thank you properly, Mark. I've been waiting all day for you to get home. Do you ever miss me? Do you ever miss the way we used to be?" She stood up, quietly stalking closer to me like a cat about to pounce. I tried to get up and get away, but she planted herself in my lap. "Come on. You have to miss me," she said, her voice low and breathy. "I miss you." She kissed me deeply on the lips, and I pushed her off of me, stumbling out of my chair and putting a few feet between us. No, I can't. I don't want to." "Liar," she teased. "I know you want a piece of this." She tried to get close to me again, but I forced her away. "I said no." I saw rage flash through her eyes. "What? Why are you looking at me funny? I'm still me, you know. I just feel better. Can't you just be happy that I feel better for once in my life? Because there's something wrong with you, Harmony. I don't know what it is, and I don't even know if you know, but something is fucking wrong. You have to see it. I don't know if it's got something to do with whatever happened in the woods, or if it's something else, but I don't think you're okay, and you're starting to fucking scare me." "Scare you?" she repeated. "What did I ever do to scare you?" "Everything. How the hell do you not see it? How the hell don't you see just how fucking weird you've been acting? At first I thought it was that guy, Lucas. I thought he did something to you, but no. No, you did something to him, didn't you? Why the fuck else would your apartment have been like that?" Harmony just glared at me, but I could see something in her eyes, a primal animal rage that was nothing like what I'd ever seen in her before. "And last night," I said, "last night you disappeared. You were in my bed, and then you weren't. Where did you go? I don't fucking know. But when you suddenly reappeared, you were covered in blood, and my hands were shaking. My voice caught in my throat. God, why hadn't I said anything last night? Why hadn't I done anything sooner? Logically, it would have made sense to do something sooner, wouldn't it? But was any of this logical? Did any of what was happening even make sense? I couldn't help but wonder if I'd completely lost my mind. But if I was crazy, Harmony would have said something, right? She wouldn't just be glaring at me like that, would she? "I don't know what's wrong with you," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't know what it is, but I know you need help." Her head tilted slightly to the side. "Why?" she finally asked. "Right now, I feel better than ever." "Oh, really, yeah? You feel better than ever? Eating raw fucking steak, disappearing at night and coming home covered in blood? You feel better," I snapped. "Whatever the hell is going on with you, Harmony, it's making you sick in the fucking head." Her lips curled back into an animalistic snarl. She moved toward me, and as her eyes met mine, I saw that there was no trace of the girl I once knew in there. It wore her face, yes, but whatever was coming toward me, whatever I'd been trying to get through to, it wasn't Harmony. She lunged for me, almost like an animal. I grabbed her and pushed her aside before lunging toward the kitchen table and grabbing one of the steak knives. "Get the fuck back!" I stammered, although the thing that looked like Harmony didn't listen. It just threw itself toward me again, tackling me to the ground, and on instinct, I drove the steak knife into her stomach. As soon as I heard her pained scream, I felt a deep horror overtake me. I pushed her off and scrambled away, watching her writhe in pain on the ground. She glared at me, her eyes bloodshot and furious. "Mark!" she seethed, before violently ripping the knife out of her own stomach. Then, on all fours, she sprinted toward me, moving faster than I had ever seen anyone move. I stumbled backward, knocking over a chair to try and slow her down as I did the only thing I could think to do, and ran. I took off toward the front door of the apartment and threw it open. I heard an animalistic scream behind me that I was sure belonged to Harmony before I raced through the door and slammed it closed behind me. Then, I ran. Harmony was gone when I finally went back to the apartment, accompanied by a couple of police officers. The cameras in the hallways and lobby of my building never showed her leaving, but the window in my bedroom was open. I made sure to close it and lock it tight. The cops took my statement and promised to keep a lookout for Harmony, but I haven't heard anything back from them. Apparently, nobody has seen any trace of her ever since that night. She didn't check herself into any hospitals to take care of her stab wound or anything like that. She just dropped off the face of the earth. The cops have made it pretty clear that I shouldn't leave town, but that hasn't stopped me from crashing at a friend's place for the past month or so. I feel better not being alone at night. I don't have any answers about what exactly happened to Harmony. All I know is that she went into the woods for a hike one day, and she came out different. I don't even think she knows what happened to her. What I do know is that the girl I used to know, the girl I used to love, she's gone for good, and I don't know what now exists in her place. I just know that it's out there. A friend of mine sent me something the other day, a different friend than the one I'm staying with. He wasn't in the loop on what happened, although I've filled him in on a few of the less insane details since then. It was a screenshot from a dating app he was on. The girl in the picture looks a lot like Harmony, and her name is listed as Harmony. But Harmony never looked so pale or gaunt. Her eyes never looked so sunken and predatory. It still has her face, but it isn't Harmony. Not anymore.